So I think the hardest hire that you'll ever make is your first staff clinician. And I'm going to tell you exactly why and what to do about it on this episode of the PT Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Damon Tate, founder of PT Biz. And to date, my company has had the opportunity to help over 1,000 clinicians start and scale and sometimes even sell their clinics all around the country. It puts me in a unique position to be able to see lots of trends from a high level. And I try to share those with you on this podcast as much as I possibly can, because I hope it gives you an unfair advantage in your ability to make decisions in business in real time. One thing that we've helped many clinicians do, like, I don't even know how many times at this point, literally well over 1,000 hires that we've helped people with at this point, probably multiple thousands. And I will say that the hiring process, when you hire your first staff clinician, I think is the hardest hire that you'll ever make. And there's a few reasons why. Number one, when you hire somebody and it's just you, maybe it's you and a part-time admin, your business looks incredibly sketchy to this potential hire. And you got to keep in mind, the vast majority of people in our profession are risk averse, highly educated individuals that want security. We are not typically a bunch of entrepreneurs. Some of us are maybe, but it's rare. Usually we're pretty safety driven and we've gotten high levels of education. And in most cases, we're told that we were going to have these fantastic jobs, great job security for decades to come. And I would say that's not true, but you know, the high volume in-network facility job may not be what you were sold, right? Like, it burns a lot of people out. It's frustrating. It's a massive amount of administrative work. And, you know, we all know that a lot of people get frustrated in those environments. So when we start our own cash-based clinic, right, for many people, it is a sublease space that you eventually then are able to springboard into a standalone space, but usually it's bootstrapped. You don't have a lot of cash. And so what you're starting with is, you know, really, it's not that impressive looking. And I'll tell you a story about our first hire. And it's very similar to what a lot of people go through. And when we hired, or we're going through the hiring process for our first hire, we actually had a clinician that we had met that we thought was awesome, who actually is a fantastic clinician. One of the better clinicians that I've ever had a chance to meet and work with in the country. Fantastic skill sets. And this person was living in a different state at the time. So we brought him and his fiance down to Atlanta. And they come to our space. And this is in our sublease space on the west side of town. And this is in a CrossFit gym. It's not the fanciest looking space ever. You know, we didn't even have a window. It was in a kind of rough part of town. And I remember, you know, we brought them to the space and I was pretty proud of our space. I was like, yeah, like I thought it was awesome. You got to keep in mind, man, I was treating people in, you know, rooms next to laundromats in the barracks of facilities prior to this with my job in the military, or in tents or whatever. Like, I didn't really care. The fact that we had air conditioning, I thought was awesome. And I remember the look on this guy's fiance's face when she walked in the space, and she was not impressed at all. Not impressed. And this may have had nothing to do with their decision to actually not take the position. They turned us down for the position, which was actually a incredibly bad offer on our part. As far as like, I mean, we had like a big chunk of equity we're going to give this person. We didn't know shit about what we were doing. And he turned us down for the position. And for a number of reasons, it probably wasn't the right decision for them. But for us, I remember like, I was kind of personally, you know, I took it very personally, because I was like, why don't they see what I see, right? Like, why can't they see that this is just the beginning of something that's going to be much bigger, which is Athletes Potential, which is still around today, over a decade later, multiple locations, you know, it's well over 7-figure business at this point. And But that wasn't what they saw. They saw a shitty little room in a rough part of Atlanta in a CrossFit gym and what we were doing at that time. That's what they saw. Now, and that's totally fair because that's where we were. If you're in this position that we're in, don't be surprised if candidates aren't super interested in taking your job because you have no track record of being able to establish schedules for anybody more than yourself. You have probably limited to no space if it's just you in a sublease space. You have basically no capital. You're bootstrapped unless you're taking on capital for expansion, which could be a good decision. You are risky to these people. You're risky to somebody who is risk averse. Not only that, this person was coming from another state. So they were going to move from another state to this area for a job at a place that looked risky. That's double the risk, right? So you gotta understand that and accept that. And that's normal. And you can't take that personally. So here's what you have to do. Here's what you're really selling them. You're not selling them on where you are today. You're selling them on the fact that this is where we are now, but this is where we're going. And you get to be a part of the early stages of that. Imagine being employee number 1 at Facebook. Imagine being employee number 1 at Amazon, whatever. And obviously we're not as big as either of those, but that's the way in which you have to kind of look at it, right? It's like you get to jump on this bus before a bunch of other people do, and we're going to be way down here in this place that's way cooler, and you get to be a part of that, right? That is the story that you must sell people to take a risk on your unproven business, which is frankly what it is. And that is a very hard thing to do. And it's also usually a certain type of person that's going to accept that position. So one of the other things that we've noticed is your first staff hire, the likelihood that they stick around for a long time is pretty low. And here's why. The kind of person that's going to take a position that looks sketchy like that is also the kind of person that is a little bit more tolerant when it comes to risk. So they have a far higher likelihood of going and doing their own thing because they're already used to a bit of risk. They already see this. There's not a whole lot that you've put into this, right? In some cases, you're figuring it out as you go, right? That's what we were doing. And so they might see that and just say well, why am I not doing this for myself? Now, there's a lot of reasons that may not be the best decision for them, but I do see a lot of people move on within the course of 1 to 3 years. But it doesn't matter because there's nothing wrong with that. And I will say this, we've had a number of clinicians move on and successfully start their own clinics, and I'm fucking proud of every single one of them, period. And it wasn't a waste of our time to work with them. It was incredibly valuable. They helped us move the business forward before they left and decided to do their own thing. And every single person that did that, I wish them nothing but success. They're fantastic human beings that truly are great at what they do clinically. They're great people. And I hope that they have everything they want in life going forward. And I am very, very appreciative of their time with us because they helped us build the business to the next step and the next step and the next step. And it is frustrating when somebody leaves and their schedule turnover and you have to, move patients around or whatever. These are things that we have to deal with as business owners. But even getting that first person in the door and establishing that second schedule, building credibility through multiple providers that this is more than just one person, building a brand. That is step number 1. Even if that is a short-lived stint, even if that's 1 to 3 years with somebody, it doesn't matter. Because the people that you're going to be able to hire and attract as your brand becomes bigger and more established and you have better benefits and you have better compensation pay structure and you look more stable, you're going to attract people that are going to be more stable. They're looking for more stability. You're going to create more stability for them. Early on, it is an unstable environment that people are taking a risk on you, and you need to respect the fact that they're taking a risk on you. I never looked at it this way, and this was a huge mistake. The way I looked at it was, I'm giving you a job. You need to do these things because this is your job. It's like the Mad Men scene where, Peggy's getting mad because Don Draper is not showing her enough appreciation or telling her she's doing a good job. And he says, that's what the money's for. Like, that's what the money's for. You're here to do this. Why should I tell you you're doing a good job? And that's not a great leadership approach, by the way. Like, don't take Don Draper's leadership approach usually when it comes to your staff. Like, you have to appreciate these people because they're taking a risk on you. They're taking a chance on you. And you need people to believe in where you're going, even if they're not going to be there the whole time, for you to get there. So you've got to realize that you're not selling people on where they're at. You can't compete on that. You're selling people on where you're going and that they get to be a part of the crazy ride that they're going to jump into to get there. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of unknown. You know, things that are risky are more fun. Like, that's just the way it works, right? Like, if there's no risk, then it's boring. Well, there's going to be some risk associated with this, and they can always go and get a job doing something else. That's not the case. Like, they could always go and do something else, and this happens sometimes. Like, we'll see people leave and just go back to a hospital job or whatever. But that first hire, that first position that you're filling it based on hope, based on a vision that you're casting of where you're going. You can't sell them on your shitty little room that's there right now. You have to paint a picture of what it's going to look like and that they get to be a part of it. And if you can do that, you can get that first person in, you can get that first hire in that is tough, right? Because you're time poor, you're having to build their schedule up, you're really trying to like push more evaluations over that way, you're trying to build their reputation up at the same time and the brand of the clinic. I don't think you'll ever work harder than the stage of a growth cycle where you're getting that first clinician in, you're trying to grow into a standalone space, trying to grow to a second clinician, trying to juggle all these things while you're still treating a lot of patients. It gets hard, super, super hard. I think that's the hardest stage. Like, these bigger growth cycles where you're going to bigger spaces or another location, or like, that's nothing compared to that first growth cycle. I think it's the hardest. It's what washes the most people out, actually. Like, if people are going to give up and quit and go back to being small or shut their business down and go back to some other job that they want, it's going to happen at this stage. It's not going to happen past that. You know, it's not going to happen once they're at like $500,000 to $1 million in revenue and they can provide these great opportunities for people and they have a lot of stability, an established brand that just generates patients without them having to do anything. It's definitely not going to be then. It's going to be at this first growth cycle and getting that first clinician in the door, especially if you have turnover before you bring another one after that. Oh my God, that is a absolute nightmare for people. It sucks to take a step backwards like that because you've exhausted cash flow in the process. Like, it is rough. And it's what stops a lot of people. But keep in mind, in order to get where you want to go, you have to go through this stage as well. You have to put the work in. It's a challenging stage. And it's one of those things you're going to learn a lot about yourself and your business as well. Looking back, you'll grow more than you probably ever thought was possible during these stages. You're probably going to age more than you thought too. Have a few more gray hairs in your beard like me. But the growth is going to be immense personally and professionally. Period. Like, there's not much you can do there. But keep in mind, that first hire is hard. It's hard to sell them on what's going on. It's hard to keep them around, but you got to get that person in the door, and you should have a lot of respect for that person taking a risk on you and your business because you're selling them on where you're going and they have to be a part of that. So when you go to bring your first hire on, remember, you're not selling them on what the business is today. You're selling them on where the business is going to be in 5-10 years and how they get to be a very special part of that as being, staff member number one. And that is credibility. It's status, that people are proud of, that is what you have to lean into, because you're definitely not leaning into your 401k, your health benefits that don't even exist, and your poor pay compensation structure. Like, that's what they're seeing. So you got to get really good at sales in another way and selling them on the future vision of your business, the impact that they can have, the ride they're going to be on, the ride of a lifetime that they get to experience. And that's how you get your first hire. And then you got to deliver on really being able to provide the opportunity that you say you can so that they can provide for their family, so that they can actually, maintain being in that role for as long as it works for both of you, right? But remember, you're selling them on the future, not on what's happening today.